Let's do an experiment today. Let's see if climbing bikes are still a really good option for amateurs like me. We've seen that the pros in this last Tour de France have decided to go 100% for the Aeros, even in stages with a lot of climbing. What about us? Well, between the 800 kilometers I've already done testing this bike and the 150 I'm going to ride today in the event. Let's see what could be our best option.
Let's hope it doesn't rain on us, man.
Let's hope it doesn't rain, right?
A storm is expected at 12, but well.
No, they're not expecting a big storm, but there's still an alert, you know?
Yeah.
As long as you don't fall like last year.
Don't fall or mess up. Avoid San Benito as much as possible. Damn, you say someone doesn't go down too badly, and he's the first one to hit the ground, you know? But oh well.
Let's see if we can keep up with Olavilla. He's coming with the Aero.
Yeah, right? Whatever you push yourself on, it increases pretty easily.
Hostilities have already begun and the neutral zone isn't even over yet. I was thinking of trying a different style of video, more like a broadcast, taking advantage of having Nacho on the bike with the camera. So like pretending you're Andres and I'm Perico, or the other way around, and commenting as we go along.
Let's see if I'm that smooth, man.
Well, let's see. What we have here in the end is a cycling event, a ride, a cycling sport, or just cycling. It doesn't matter. A bunch of people with race numbers. It's not supposed to be a competition. There are 3 distances, but the longest always brings a bit more adrenaline. And I think I remember they said there were about 2,000 people registered. Yeah, it's crazy.
Of course, this year the start felt much longer to me.
People just kept coming out.
Last time, it took me much longer to catch up to you up ahead, you know. I got oysters. We kept saying we wouldn't make it, yet we kept passing people. It's been amazing, honestly.
Well, the goal for me in this ride was to get more information beyond the testing I've already done on my own with this BMZ Team Machine Super Light Racing 01. It was mainly to see how it performed in a group, how it handled on flat terrain in a group. Because we're seeing that there's a new trend where professional World Tour teams and so on, those who have the option to choose between an aero bike and a climbing or all-rounder bike. They're leaning towards, increasingly even in stages, with a lot of elevation using aero bikes. But those are professionals, it's a different world. They're able to climb at 30 kilometers per hour, we have different conditions, less wattage and so on. And I maintain the theory that no matter how much we want to imitate what the professionals do, if we can choose, in most cases it will make more sense to use an all-terrain or climbing bike. Because my theory is as follows. On flat terrain, you ride in a group, and no matter how much aerodynamic advantage the bike has, in the end it's the group that's giving you the aerodynamic benefit, not the bike itself.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
When is the difference going to be made? When are there going to be those little Sunday rivalries? Or in a ride for amateur cyclists like us, when it starts to get steep and the climb begins? So the bike should be light and climb better due to its geometry, carbon fiber design and other features. The drivetrain, in fact, will be even more important to make a difference in those sprints that matter. How does it ride on flat terrain?
Yes, unless you're a bit crazy and go 180 km alone. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I completely agree with that.
I'll tell you my conclusions later. Yes, it's true, I collected all the data, a power meter, heart rate, obviously speed, global positioning system, all of that with the Coros Dura, which is the cycle computer that's making an incredible entry into the market. This brand started with trail running watches and now for the moment has this single model in cycling. Especially for ultra distance athletes like Nacho, its ultra long battery life is making a real impact. So as you can see, the ride started on a beautiful day, although there was a warning that a big storm could hit by mid-morning, so the pace was already really high from the very start. We were riding perfectly at about 28 miles per hour. It was really intense. I have to say regarding the bike, that I didn't find any issues at all riding at these speeds, even though it was a climbing bike. Maybe the biggest limitation was in the gearing. A SRAM setup with a 48-tooth big chainring and a 10-33 cassette in the back, and the 48 If there are people who move a lot and really well on the flat, does it feel limited for you, no matter what? But anyway, I had a single obsession on these flat sections with lots of roundabouts and lots of curves, which was to stay at the front to avoid problems. In fact, we already heard about a crash when entering a roundabout or a collarbone breaking somewhere. And I was thinking, good, I'm up here at the front. I even had my moment of glory at one point when, because I was obsessed with being the first to reach the roundabout, I ended up at the very front of the group of 2,000 runners. And Nacho Justo was there to record it, and it was like an epic moment, you know?
I think it was an epic moment for everyone because we were just getting to the front, you know? And I did it and turned the camera in a split-second decision. It's always tricky at the roundabout. And there you were.
I don't mind if I don't finish the march. I've already had my moment of glory. Olympia, did you think you could just take over? Did you lose control of your flock?
I'm not here for nonsense. I was just telling him that he was partying a lot. I'm the type who wears size 24 stockings.
25. In...
Roller, that's on the roller, like a slice of sausage with cheese, with a little apple.
I see many people here who are really engaged. I'm grabbing my phone because I have the Strava segments here, but basically on the flat until you get to San Grau, which was the first climb and you could say the only real mountain pass of this ride. I made it without any problems at the front of the crowd, at the front of the peloton. As soon as the climb started, 2 or 3 riders broke away and went off. I think we caught up with them as the climb went on, but anyway, I stayed there with my usual high cadence, as always, to climb. And here, really, this bike. So with a weight that's under 7 kilos, that gearing, which is so bad on the flat. When climbing, you use the 48, keep the big chain ring, shift down with the cogs and climb well. Look, a group that we caught up with right away, huh? Along the climb, but honestly, it went pretty well for me. In San Grau, Strava shows it's 8.6 kilometers with a 4.1% average gradient. There are also some descents, etc. And well, I set my personal record at 20:02 compared to last year. Exactly the same ride with a bike that you could say is it stood out. Not a climber, but it's a bit for all terrains like the Aurum. And with this one in a very similar way. This year I did 20 minutes and 2 seconds, and last year I did 20 minutes and 49 seconds. This year I was able to push more watts, 313, and last year 298. That's true. That after 3 quarters I had a back problem. 3 quarters of the way up, suddenly my back just locked up. I mainly blame it on the fair days that happened before, because this is within the framework of Scioter. I was carrying a 6-kilo backpack with tripods and cameras. I don't know what it's like to spend 12 hours at the fair walking around for 2 days. And I think that's where I messed up my back, and before reaching the top bleeding, it was like...
I ended up exhausted at the Scioter, and I spent a few hours alone.
This is hard to combine, signing up for a race and then going all out at the fair 2 days before, but, well, you still enjoy it. The only thing is that there I was really limited and I wasn't able to catch on to any wheel that could pull me along on the descent. Quite the opposite, because I was just trying to stretch my back. But with so many curves on the descent, I couldn't find the right moment either. And the descent? The truth is that I let a lot of groups get away from me there.
Yes. Also, that descent from San Grau when you're going down toward the coast, wow, you have to take it carefully because...
It's fast, it's fast.
It's fast? The curves have rocks, they have like little bits of sand.
They're loose, yeah.
They slip on tight curves.
I've nearly hit a wild boar before. There's always something unfair happening. One day I had a big scare there, but well, I needed to get my back in the right position, and luckily, by the time we did that descent, I was already in the right position. But I had already lost. The 2 groups I should have been with based on physical performance, let's put it that way, right? So I ended up in a group where I was doing well, but I noticed that I was one of those who was doing too well in that group, along with another guy who was dressed in decathlon gear. These people who wear decathlon gear, I don't know what they give them, but they have incredible energy. They're very young. I think this guy was from the south since I talked to him later. We spent the whole ride together and these people had incredible energy. And then we ended up kind of leading that group, which would be the 3rd or 4th chasing group in the ride. And then we got to the next climb in Romagna, which is very short but super explosive. Well, there in Romagna. As soon as it got above 10%, I took the initiative and said, well, let's try to pull the group forward. If only a few of us remain, that's better because we can truly work together moving forward. Let's see if we could hypothetically catch up with one of the groups ahead of us, right? The decathlon guy was still in this group here. Was there any other rider behind, but just at the top when we reached the summit? There was a feed zone, and then many people stayed there. Now we picked up people who came from the other groups ahead, who had stopped at the feed zone. Well, it was interesting. From there, it was downhill to what's known as the Calonja area, where you face what would be the last climb of the day, but it was already very relaxed. At an average of 3% known as La Ganga.
Right on that last climb in Calonja was where the aid station was, right? Earlier, you were with an older man who lacked a bib. I think he was a gate crasher.
Well, anyway, maybe there were people riding who was Domingo.
Yes, but this one was always there, huh? Was he with you?
A lot.
For a while, actually, for a long time.
But he was very old.
He was very old?
But like 60, and yes.
He was very old, and I remember talking with him. The motorcyclist one. This guy is a gate crasher, and two of them were like, damn, how is this guy doing? He was with you the whole time. When you reached the top of Iscalon, most of the group stayed behind, but he continued with you.
Yeah, and right at that moment he started talking to me and said, the guy with the camera is with you, right? It was like he realized. I said, yeah, do you like the camera? And the guy was practically pulling out his liver just to get his face on camera, you know?
In fact, that was also one of the things we talked about with the driver. Like, I think he's just here because he wants to be on camera. So yeah, if you see us around, you'll definitely show up, man.
But when we reached the top in Romania, this guy stayed right beside me. We talked, and then he asked, hey, there was a short and a medium one here, right? This splits up at some point, right? I can't keep up this pace my whole life, you know? I said yes, but I don't know where exactly. I'm on the long route and don't know where it splits. Then I lost sight of him.
He was going fast?
For the age he was. Well, the whole climb in Romania, which is short, I think it's about 1.5 kilometers, but at around 12%, so it's really tough. Yeah, is he here? There he is. The guy held on the whole time, but he has a small frame.
He was like that. He had thin, wiry legs. Man, I remember seeing him. Yeah.
Really wild. Very good, man. Well, hey, one of the things they've updated on the Coros Dura is that now you have a ton of possibilities to create. The typical photos with route statistics, which you put over the data and they look really cool to post on social media. Or the flyover, this 3D feature, which is like a 3D map that shows your route and displays the photos you've taken along the way. All of this, which used to depend on third-party apps, is now included in the Coros Dura itself. And with this, if you record some videos, I'm not saying with a cameraman like I do, but if you record some videos of yourself biking, take some photos, and then post them on social media.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Because it happens to me a lot that I don't remember where the photos were taken or the places I've been. Update, you can remember, wow, this was that point on the route, right?
You geolocate it, you send the video to your friends? Exactly, I don't know, it looks really cool. On the last climb, Ganga, which is an ideal for me since I perform better with more elevation. This averages around 3% roughly. And thinking that after that there was a lot of flat terrain and at the end a really brutal climb, very short but super explosive. When you're already exhausted heading to Montjuic or Girona, I thought, let someone else take the initiative. And that guy from Decathlon came back to the front, leading the small group that was left, and I was there. My strategy was, get on the wheel, take turns pulling like everyone else, but save energy for that last climb up Montjuic. The problem was that in the end we got caught by the
downpour hit us.
A huge downpour. It didn't last long, but it was a huge downpour. The organization chose not to go up Montjuic, not due to the climb, but the descent. They're residential streets with lots of, manholes, many manholes, and those usual iron bars that cross the asphalt from end to end. And that's it, you're just 1 kilometer away from the finish line. It didn't make much sense, but the truth is we were all in the group for a long stretch on the flat, just waiting for that moment. And when we saw the organizers say, no, don't go past, we're not going up, it was like, on one hand, what a bummer. Maybe I would have pushed myself harder at some point, but on the other hand, nobody here complained.
Exactly, nobody says no.
Because that climb is really tough, really tough.
Yeah, it did rain. It did, like you said, man, it rained for a very short time. Because I didn't even put on my rain jacket since I was behind the motorcyclist. He had crouched down, but the whole road got completely soaked. Yes.
A total downpour.
Look, you can see here a lot of water was rising. And I remember thinking, damn, I'm really not used to riding in a pack. And I was like, this is scary, man. Yeah, because also when you get behind someone, all the water from the person in front splashes on you. And I was going up with all the
water in my face. By then you're near Girona, 150 kilometers in, and your strength is fading. Everyone, more or less, is already a bit worn out, and it's easy to make a mistake. Maybe a crash or something else. And then everyone goes off. Fortunately, we understood each other well with the relays. I think that's where the race's magic was in that bit of competition. When there's an uphill and all that. Overall, we were a good team and reached the finish line, except for that last climb that nearly ruined everything. Honestly, it was all hugs, good vibes, and talking about how it went, and it was really great, really great.
You could see the groups you were in. It looked like everyone was really in sync, dude.
Yeah.
And everyone was collaborating, you know? Wasn't there the typical wheel sucker?
Well, there's always one of those. I don't see him. We'll get his number later. But, well, there weren't too many. In conclusion, after having done all the individual testing of the bike and after having participated in this ride, honestly, I still think it's the better option. I still believe it's a better choice for an amateur like us to choose. If you have to choose between an Aero and a climbing bike, choose a modern climbing bike like this Team Machine, which in the end, this bike. What it has done is inherit the aerodynamic study that was done with the aerodynamics. And adapting it to a slimmer, more climbing focused frame, but the frame's aerodynamics are already present. Another thing is if you later want to put on a bigger chainring, especially wheels with a higher profile and so on to make it more capable on the flat. But the strict difference is in the frame. I think what you gain in comfort with the climbing bike, because you ride more upright, your back is straighter, you're a bit more relaxed, you gain a more favorable climbing position. Because with the Aero bikes, you're much lower, and when you try to go up like this, it's harder to move them and all that. I think it makes more sense for an amateur like you, like me, like the person watching this video, to end up choosing that option. Aero bikes are really cool, really sexy, they get us excited, yes. The pros use them, yes. They make sense for certain courses. Flatter courses, yes, but as a single bike, a more versatile one for an amateur. I still stand by, in the case of DMC, who has two bikes, that the climbing bike is better for an amateur.
And for someone ignorant like me, do you think it would be a good combination then to have a bike with geometry like this DMC with deep section wheels? Could it be a good combination like for a race like this with elevation changes and flat sections?
Let's see, for this particular ride, didn't that Team Machine Superlight Racing have any advantage here? Because in the end, there were no tough climbs, and the few uphills had gradients where you couldn't really make a difference. Using a deeper rim like a 40mm profile would have made more sense for this series bike, maybe even a 50 or 55, because it's going to help you not just on the flat, but also when you want to accelerate the bike, especially on descents to gain more momentum and so on. But if we're thinking about a single bike with a single setup to cover as much terrain as possible, this bike with a 45 profile is probably... You covered everything, that's it.
Perfect.
More than with the R, which is fully Aero and has 50mm wheels that climb well, since new Aero bikes are good climbers. But
it's very niche, let's say.
Well, I think that we amateurs who have a much worse watt per kilo than the professionals are not going to be able to get as much out of it. This bike, this BMC, is at 6.7 kilos if you weigh it in size S, which is the one I use. If you weigh it just as it comes from the factory, Already without pedals?
Alright?
So, anyway, what do you guys think? What's your opinion? What are you commenting? Aero bikes or climbing bikes for amateurs?
I can give my opinion, yes, of course. I still prefer climbing bikes, okay.
Okay.
I still prefer the climbing bikes, I do. A 40mm profile suits my needs well. So, let's see, tell us, what do you guys think?
We'll be keeping an eye on the comments.
Bye.